afternoon, student. Today topic is the great writer Elizabethan era William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare was born on 23 April 1564 and he was died on 23 April 1660. He was an English playwright, poet, and actor, widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. He is often called England's national poet. He oftenly called England's national poet and the bird of Avon. So the bird of Avon, that means that poet, like that. His extant works, including collaborations, consists of some 37 plays, 154 sonnets, 2 long narrative poems, and a few other verses, some uncertain authorship. His plays have been translated into every major living language and are performed more often than those of any other playwright. They also continue to be studied and reinterpreted. He was born on Stratford upon Avon, Warwickshire, UK, and England. Shakespeare was born and raised Stratford upon Avon, Warwickshire. At the age of 18, he married Anne Hathaway, with whom he had 3 children, Susanna, and twins Hamlet and Judith. Sometimes between the 1585 and 1592, he began a successful career in London as an actor, writer, and part owner of a playing company called the Lord Chamberlain's Men, later known as the King's Men. At the age of 49, around 1613, he appears to have retired to Stratford, where he died 3 years later. Few records of Shakespeare's private life survive. This has stimulated considerable speculations about such matters as his physical appearance and his religious beliefs, and whether the works attributed to him were written by others. Shakespeare produced most of his known work between 1589 and 1613. His early plays were primarily comedies and histories and are regarded on some of the best work produced the 3 genres. The 3 genres are comedies, histories, and tragedies. So, until about the 1608, he wrote mainly tragedies like Hamlet, Romeo and Julio, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, all considered to be among the finest works in the English language. In the last phase of language, the last phase of plays of his life, wrote tragic comedies. Tragic comedies collaborated with other playwrights. We know that romances like the tragic comedies. Many of Shakespeare's plays were published in editions in varying quality and accuracy in his lifetime. However, in 1623, 2 fellow actors and friends Shakespeare's, John Hemmings and Henry Condell, published a more definitive text known as the First Folio, that is very famous for William Shakespeare. First Folio was published in 1623. It's the first publication of plays. Okay. So next one is, what are the identifiable acting and staging conventions common to Elizabethan theatre? So Elizabethan theatres, first one is soliloquy, second one is aside, third one is boys performing female roles, and fourth one mask, and fifth one dialogues. Okay, so first one is soliloquy. Soliloquy meant by a single character talks aloud inner thoughts to him or herself. Next one is aside. Aside, passage in a play that intended to be heard by the audience. Next one is boys performing female roles. The women were not permitted to act on the English stage until the King Charles II. So no choice, young boys in the roles of women, while the men played all the male roles. Next one is masque. The masque were all the stories about an event or person involving singing, acting, dancing, and wear the masks to hide their faces. Next one is dialogues, we know that. The next one is Shakespeare was used comic characters in his plays. First one is trickster, number 2 fools, number 3 clowns, number 4 jester. Trickster means he often a thief or liar. Next one is fool. Fool is a silly and stupid person, like a lack of sense. Next one is clown, who does comical tricks called buffoons. Clowns. Jester. Jester makes a beginning for the tips of his jokes and songs. Next one is Shakespeare theatre and audience. First one is the structure of theatre. Shakespeare theatre and audience. First one is the structure of theatre. The second one is the famous theatre during the time Elizabethan era. For the famous theatre, globe and black. The third one is a small round wooden shaped. The performances in daylight. The Elizabethan stage during the early part of the 16th century. There were two distinct types of theatre in England. One was represented by small groups of professional actors who performed in hall inns or marketplaces. The locations of play was established by the words and gestures of the actors. The localities had little significance. The second type of theatre, found in the London area, was made up of amateurs, usually university students performing for all royal court and asserted gentry. The audience and the actors were educated, acquainted with the classics, and knowledgeable about theatre in other countries, particularly France. The stage was probably set with buildings made of laths covered with painted canvas with cloud borders masking the upper part of the acting area. So for that, the significant achievement of the Elizabethan stage was connected with the theatres of professional acting groups, not the court theatre. During the second half of the 16th century, as they became successful, the troops no longer needed to remind that. In 1576, the first permanent public theatre called simply the theatre. The theatre was recreated by the actor James Barbage. The building boom continued until the ends of the century. The Globe Theatre, where Shakespeare's plays were first performed, was built in 1599. Noted the play Shakespeare's play were first performed was built in 1599 with a lump of from the demolished theatre. The typical Elizabethan stage was a platform, a large square of the theatre, and that the shadow, the roof of called the shadow, the heavens. In most of the theatres, the stage roof supported by two pillars set midway. At the side of the stage, console and upper area from which objects could be raised lowered. At the rear of the stage was a multiple with two large doors at the stage of level. There was also a space for discoverers. Discoverers of hidden characters in order to advance the plot. This was probably located between the doors. Some scenes took place in a playing area on the second level of the facade, but again historians disagree as to which sense they were. The properties were occasionally carried into the platform stage, but from extent list it is obvious that they were few in number. Some properties were so cumbersome that they remained on stage throughout a performance. Small properties were probably revealed in the discovery space, and servants carried some properties on and off. All the theatre's buildings were round square with a roof covering the structure surroundings opened the courtyard. Spectators, depending on how much money they had, could either stand in the yard, which may have sloped toward the stage, sit on benches. The galleries that went around the greater part of the walls, sit in one of the private boxes, sit on a stool on the stage proper. Elizabethan theatre different in that it had a main platform, an inner stage and an upper stage level that made movement possible in all directions instead simply along the length of the narrow stage. Shakespeare wrote his plays for everybody, so there were many social classes who went to see his plays. From the groundling people, who include all people who were not very rich, to those who paid for more and more to sit in the gentleman's room of the Lord's room. Shakespeare's audience for his outdoor plays was the very rich, the upper middle class, and the lower middle class. Structure of the stage: front stage, the middle class, the groundling. Backstage, they using for this. They used it to the offices, theatre offices, and next one is rear stage. Rear stage for the entrance and exits. Next one is upper stage, is a balcony. Shakespeare wrote 10 histories, 14 comedies, and 12 tragedies. 10 histories. First one, Henry IV Part 1. Number 2, Henry IV Part 2. Number 3, Henry V. Number 4, Henry VI Part 1. Number 5, Henry VI Part 2. Number 6, Henry VI Part 3. Number 7, Henry VIII. Number 8, King John. Number 9, Richard II. Number 10, that is the final one, Richard III. The many great tragedies: number 1, Hamlet, Othello, King Lear, Macbeth, Antony and Cleopatra, Julius and Caesar, Romeo and Juliet, Julius Caesar and Romeo Juliet, like this. So 14 comedies, all's well that ends well, As You Like It, The Comedy of Errors, Love's Labour's Lost, Message for Messa, The Merchant of Venice, like that. A Midsummer Night Dreams, Much Ado About Nothing. Shakespeare longs to play Hamlet, short play The Comedy of Errors, first play Henry VI Part 2, first comedy, Comedy of Errors, Last comedy, The Tempest. First tragedy, Titus and Andronicus. And sonnet, it was 14 lines. Rhyme scheme, A B A B C D C D E F E F G G. Long narrative poems, Venus and Adonis. It was published 1593.